FSU football is on the Tan Talk Radio Network tonight. Live coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. with an 8 o'clock kickoff time. Don't miss the 12-0 Florida State Seminoles as they take on the Duke Blue Devils live from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. with an 8 o'clock kickoff time. Don't miss it right here on Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network, AM 1350 and AM 1400.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome to Pull No Punches Radio, the radio show by the fighters for the fighters. Pull No Punches Radio is powered by Enlisted 9 Fight Company and is hosted by UFC lightweight and Ultimate Fighter Season 16 winner Colton Smith, the outspoken and controversial Jay Pagliaro, and Staff Sergeant Dan O'Brien. Now it is time for the one and only Pull No Punches Radio featuring Jay, Colton, and Dan.
I wish I knew then what I know right now. When my parents split, that's when it's
Good morning, Tampa Bay, and welcome to the Bay Area's #1 MMA variety radio show, Pull No Punches Radio, powered by the Enlisted 9 Fight Company. I am Jay Pagliaro, my co-host Dan O'Brien, with you for the next hour. Colt Smith having some health-related issues, needed to take the day off, but he will be back next week. But buckle up because we've got a big show in store to you. Obviously, big thanks to our board op, the man who drives the Pull No Punches bus every Saturday, as he has for the last 5 Saturdays in a row. Mr. Bill, the driver of the bus, and we're ready to rock and roll. Your telephone number to call. Bill, let's hear that magic voice. What's the number where our great listeners can call here today?
Call the show now, toll-free, 1-866-826-1340. That's 1-866-826-1340 or 727-441-3000. That's 727-441-3000.
There you hear it, the number to call if you want to get a hold of us. We've got a good giveaway to give away today there, Dan. We got a great prize pack we're going to give to somebody. We've got an autographed picture, an authentic autographed picture of UFC light heavyweight Matt the Hammer Hamill, Ultimate Fighter 3-star. We're going to give that away to somebody, but you do have to call into the show to win that prize. So, again, give a call to the number Mr. Bill mentioned earlier, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to throw this question out there to you. Not just MMA related. We're gonna mix things up from going forward. We're gonna add some sports into our discussion too, because everybody likes sports. I'm a sports junkie. Dan, you're a sports junkie. You got a pretty diverse sports background too. I mean, you played some professional football over in Europe, right? I should let the people know about that.
I just was involved doing a little bit of scout team development when I was over in Europe. Had the opportunity with my command teams to allow me to do that. So. I seized the moment and had a great opportunity with it. Got to play with some of the famous names that you hear about now are going into the Hall of Fame, so it was quite an honor.
So we got that, and then, of course, I'm not going to praise my background because I don't ever sing my background, as that sounds a little too preposterous, but I've got a background in sports myself, especially with a near miss on an ESPN reality show, but we'll talk about that at a later date. But any which way, here's what you got to do. Give us a call. Numbers that Bill mentioned. Get the chance to that Hamill autograph picture. We're going to throw 2 questions out there. For you MMA fanatics, Mark Hunt, Bigfoot Silva, Antonio Bigfoot Silva, last night had arguably one of the greatest fights in heavyweight history, in the history of the heavyweight division in MMA. Went to a rare majority draw, which is seldom. And, frankly, though, this is one of those rare decisions to where many people actually think that the judges got it right. We hear complaining and arguing galore over draws that we've seen in the past. This is the one case where the people aren't. Where do you rank that fight in terms of the all-time great fights in MMA history, not just in the heavyweight division? And question number 2 for you football fanatics, because this is Championship Sunday. It's the moment of truth for many teams, including the Florida State Seminoles, as they play Duke in the ACC Championship game, a game that can be heard right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network. Kickoff 7:30, or coverage starts at 7:30, kickoff at 8 p.m. Check it out, WDCF 1350, WZHR 1400, 7:30 airtime, 8 o'clock kickoff. But going to throw the question out there. Right now there's 3 teams in the running for the national title, barring they all win out. You got Florida State Duke today. You got Ohio State, Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. Then you've got the battle between Missouri and Auburn, a couple of shockers there, playing in the SEC title game. Dan O'Brien, Jay Pagliaro, Mr. Bill, throwing this question out there to you. If both Florida State and Ohio State win out, who should be in the national title game? Should it be FSU, OSU? Should it be FSU, the SEC champion, or should it be OSU in the SEC champion? Give us a call. Let us know your thoughts. Who should play the national title game? Should OSU and Florida State win out? Should OSU get that second nod? Should the SEC champs get that second nod? And Dan, I'm going to make a big bet on the air here on the SEC title game. I'm staking my reputation on this. I'm going letter to the law. I'm saying this right now. If I don't get this right, I'll never host this show again. Okay? You ready for it?
Yes.
SEC title game winner. Lock it in, folks. Go to Vegas and bet this. The Tigers are going to win.
You think the Tigers are going to win the national championship?
No, I think the Tigers are going to win the SEC title game.
Wow. Well, you know, I mean, I don't know. I think Missouri's been kind of, they don't get the coverage that a lot of people get, like over in the Tampa Bay area as well as other areas in the nation. But I will tell you that coming from Missouri prior to going down to Texas, that team is very well built, and that defense is just overwhelming. So I'm not going to sit there and disagree with you, but I think it's going to be a field goal difference.
Yes. It was a little bit of a bad joke on my behalf because both teams are called the Tigers, so that was sort of my
Oh, yeah, I picked up on it, though.
No, you got two good teams, though. I mean, two very well-coached teams. Auburn, by first-year head coach Gus Malzahn, who has done absolute wonders with that team in just one season, turned them from 3-9 to one game away from possibly taking a trip to the national championship for the second time since 2010. And then you got Gary Pinkel, who very, very quietly has put together a pretty nice resume at Missouri over the last decade or plus. So should be a knockdown, drag-out game. But again, we want your opinions. Who do you think should play in the national title game, barring OSU and Florida State win out? Moving on to the MMA side of things, because we got a lot of sports, and we're going to cover that here. Segment number 2, which will be about 25 to 26 after. But last night's fights, I mean, again, what can we say about Bigfoot versus Mark Hunt that can't already been said, hasn't already been said? Just a tremendous fight all around. I think a lot of questions were answered last night. Specifically coming in, there were a ton of question marks as to Antonio Silva's durability in terms of his chin. We've seen the guy get hit. We've seen the guy get put in a bad spot. We've seen the guy get knocked out by, some strikers that not as good as Mark Hunt. Okay, Mark Hunt's one of those guys, he hits you, you're in a world of trouble, and quickly. Antonio Silva took some of Mark Hunt's best shots and kept pushing forward. So I think any questions about Bigfoot's chin disappeared last night. Same could be said for Mark Hunt, though. I mean, this is not the same Mark Hunt, ladies and gentlemen, that lost to Sean McCorkle in a minute and a half in his UFC debut. This is a completely different animal. It's just amazing to think what this guy's done with his career. It's almost been a career revival. And I know a lot of people will say, well, just looking at the eyewitness test, you look at his record alone, and it's not impressive. I mean, he's a barely above 500. But we always say on this program, and I've said on Pull No Punches many, many times in the past, Dan O'Brien, this is the one sport where records are deceiving. This isn't college football where, you look at a 6-6 team and say, all right, that team should be in the Hawaii Bowl or in the one of the low-level bowls. This isn't baseball where a team at 83-79 or 81-81, all right, they're not a playoff team. This is a world where an 8-7 record is not nothing to sneeze at. Especially when you look at the level of competition that Mark Hunt has fought. But again, just a career revival at the end of this. At 37, something you normally don't see.
Oh, you're exactly right. That fight last night was phenomenal. Did you see, though, I mean, when you looked at Bigfoot, I saw him do things last night that I haven't seen him do before. He was very fluid. His foot movement looked great. His punching and striking looked great. He's evolved as a fighter. I think after doing the fights with Kane, he's actually gone and done the right things that he needed to do. He was fighting probably not the competition and obviously in Strikeforce. But now that he's in UFC, he realizes that it's going to take a lot more. And last night, he demonstrated some wonderful things in his game that I didn't think he had. His leg kicks were looking great, had a lot of up kicks. His striking was really phenomenal. His hands were in the right place for most of the time. And I will tell you that I think this guy has improved overnight. And I don't know what happened there based off of watching the last couple fights. But he came in, last night looked a lot better in shape, looked a lot more focused. And to be honest with you, I will tell you that I think he will come back, and I think he will contend again.
I agree. Now, the question is, does he ever beat Cain Velasquez? That I'm not sure. I think it's going to be a long time before we see that fight happen if it does, because, quite frankly, that ought to tell you last night, though, Dan. I mean, we've seen Velasquez pick up 2 wins in under a year in decisive fashion. That ought to tell you how good Cain Velasquez is. I mean, this guy, you know, not only one of the best heavyweights in MMA right now, the best heavyweight in MMA, but one of the top 5 fighters in the sport. I mean, he's just he dispatched Bigfoot with ease, and that's, you know, straying off topic here, but I agree 100%. I think this Bigfoot we're seeing is not the same Bigfoot that we saw in Strikeforce, not even the same Bigfoot that we've seen, you know, lose twice to Cain Velasquez. This guy evolves, he gets better and better, and, I mean, he's a guy who just, you know, he's still relatively young enough in MMA terms to where he might have a future in this sport long term. I mean, the jiu-jitsu's there. The striking is so much better. And, you know, we've seen the fact that the one question mark that we had about him is, could he take a punch? If you can take a punch from Mark Hunt, my friend, and you can take a punch from Alistair Overeem, you can take a punch. No questions asked.
Well, I saw last night when I was watching it and, you know, just kind of looking at how it all evolved, he took several good punches. He also, though, gave a lot of punishment that I didn't see him give in the past. I mean, everything just looked like it was tighter. It looked like he wasn't even the same fighter. And to give Mark Hunt some credit, I mean, he looks great. He doesn't look as out of shape as he often does. He's really, like, taking this deal seriously. I mean, I understand his record, but let's look past that for a minute. Let's think for it. When they tried to buy him out of his contract, when they originally, you know, bought over there from, you know, over in Japan, help me out with Pride, you know, Dana White didn't even think that he was going to be able to fight, from my understanding. So he said, no, I want to earn my money. I don't want to walk away. And then you see he gets a little bit better. He's had some tremendous knockouts in the UFC. He definitely belongs. And after watching that fight last night, I think those two, if they don't let their mind get in the way, I think they're competitive. You know, they may not be competitive against Cain right now, but I think Dos Santos makes for a good fight. And I think some of the other guys, you know, could give some more exciting fights out there. You know, Cain's in a class of his own right now, but it's no different when he first started. I mean, he was beat by Dos Santos. So I think, you know, he has 2 or 3 years of good, high-quality experience that he's got over these two guys. But give it a little bit of time, and we'll see what happens.
Indeed. Give it time, wait and see, you know, because what we're waiting at now is, you know, and you could call it as we see it. Right now, Cain Velasquez is on one level. Junior Dos Santos is on that second level. Everybody else is on that third level, okay? And there's a lot of guys, in my opinion. Bigfoot's one of them. You know, dare I say, and I've been a big Mark Hunt critic over the years about whether or not he's a top 5 fighter. He's moving close to that level. You know, obviously, I think Fabricio Verdum is right there. I mean, he's right on that fringe of being that number 2, maybe even number 1 level. You know what I mean? So, I mean, what's good, though, is, Josh Barnett's another one. What's good, though, is that, you know, we're seeing diversity in the heavyweight division, Dan, which has arguably been one of the UFC's weakest weight classes over the last, you know, really since the beginning. So, although the weight classes back at UFC 5, 6, around that area. It's been a weak weight class in the heavyweight division. We've seen, with due respect to these gentlemen, some champions that probably wouldn't be top 10 guys now, okay? And even in their prime, we've seen guys get title shots that really shouldn't have. You know, case in point, God bless his soul, the late Justin Eilers getting a title shot after getting knocked out by Paul Boyantello. You know, we're not seeing that now. You're seeing a cream of the crop of heavyweights starting to rise to the surface. And frankly, there's a lot more out there that are working their way up. You know, guys like Stipe Miocic, guys like Travis Brown. There's even some in the quote lower levels, end quote. You know, the outside the UFC. Jan Jorgensen's a name I want you guys to pay attention to. You know, Cody East, who just picked up a big knockout last night in a regional promotion, I believe, in Texas. I mean, he's 9-1, got huge striking. There's names out there. We're going to see. We talked about that infusion of talent of how the UFC's become the party with 100 people allowed in and 500 at the door. That includes the heavyweight division. So I think really the big winners last night out of that fight more fans in the heavyweight division because it proves that there's names to be looked at. There's names to be reckoned with.
Oh, yes. It's the heavyweight division is absolutely coming up right now. It's been weak. You're exactly right. But if you start looking at what's been going on, there's been some very competitive fights. And I don't know that Kane is on a different level with some fighters. I know that he's on a different level with the fighters he's been fighting. But as this population starts building up in that division, I'm not going to say that they're all going to be walk-through fights because stylistically, always has something to say, during those training camps. And I've seen over the years that some fighters come in that you didn't really think were going to be that competitive against somebody, and they just happen to outwork them in those couple areas. And then you have a more competitive fight than you actually thought you would.
Absolutely. And, I mean, there's more to come. There's plenty more to come yet, in the heavyweight division in terms of fights. I believe we have a big fight coming up here at the end of the year, the 168 pay-per-view between Josh Barnett and Travis Brown. That'll have some pecking order. So things are looking good. Thinking of things looking good before we go to our first commercial break. Ultimate Fighter Season 18 finale has come to a halt. It is over now. And a historic first as Juliana Pena becomes the first ever women's Ultimate Fighter. She defeats a very tough and gritty Jess Ricazzi knockout at the end of round number 1. And Chris Holdsworth takes home the 135-pound men's crown as the Ultimate Fighter Season 18 winner. Two folks that I think have very, very good futures. I've had a chance to do some work with Juliana in the preceding months, and let me tell you, very, very well deserving of the opportunity that she's got. Very, very nice girl, very hardworking girl, and frankly, she bulldozed through the competition, and she fought some tough girls to get there. Gina Masney, unbeaten up in the Pacific Northwest. She bulldozed through her. Shayna Baszler, who is a pioneer of women's MMA, one of the top women's MMA fighters out there. She defeated her in the second round. Sarah Morass, Ricazzi, she took the competition by storm and really, really deserves that accolades of being the next Ultimate Fighter. And I think the future is bright for her. And Holdsworth, he really went untested throughout the entire competition, and he made it look easy. I think the future for him is very, very high. And I've been excited about prospects that have come off this show in the past and that have won this show. I can't remember a prospect that really I feel has a higher ceiling than Holdsworth. This guy, the sky is the limit.
Oh, boy, he looked outstanding, didn't he?
Oh, he just looks so fluent in both his grappling and his jiu-jitsu. His jiu-jitsu is just for an American, it's on a different level at 135 pounds. I think the big thing about him, I think he needs to work on. I think he needs to refine his striking a little bit. But my opinion, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say his striking, though, if you looked at it, he actually did very well. He hurt the guy that he was fighting. It wasn't like it was terrible striking. Yeah, sure, it needs to be, it needs to evolve over time. But, of course, it's like anybody else. You got great wrestling. You got great jiu-jitsu. You want to focus in the areas that you're great at. We talk about this on the show all the time. But I think that he had a couple good right hands in there that did some significant damage that set up some of the, finishing pieces of that fight. So I don't know that it's bad. It just gets overshadowed by his other outstanding skills. But, boy, what a great performance. And I'll tell you, he's probably in that weight class at 35, he's probably no more than probably 3-4 fights away from getting his shot. Because it's a pretty thin division. It's deep, but it's thin at the same time.
I 100% agree. And, he's a guy I think right off the bat you could throw in there with a top 10 135-pounder, and he would more than hold his own. He's got that much talent, in my opinion. He's got that much ability right now. And like I said, when I talk about his striking needing some refinement, as you elaborated, it's not bad. He's not inept or inadequate at it, And frankly, in my opinion, you can take a good grappler and teach him to refine striking, to become an elite-level striking. And let me tell you, he's going to get that in Sacramento training with Dwayne Ludwig. If you're not going to get refined striking with Bang Ludwig, you're in the wrong sport. You can take a grappler and make him a refined striker, give him at least passable striking. You don't got the wrestling and the grappling in MMA, it's awfully hard to teach it. It can be. We've seen some guys like George St. Pierre go from no wrestling background to one of the best wrestlers in the sport, but it's rare, very rare.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jay. It is rare, but as you can see now, though, this sport, it just seems like it's just going in directions like that we would have never expected it to do. I mean, people are just picking up their game on a regular basis. And you talk about Ludwig down there at Alpha Male. And could that be the gym, at least from maybe the 70s and below? They got some deep guys there, and I'm kind of interested to see what goes on there, because there's been quite a few gyms that would raise to the top, then they kind of fall out a little bit. But here lately, I think Alpha Male's kind of picking up their game, So are they in the same consideration or in the same voice, at least in the lower divisions, with the Jacksons out there?
Well, you look at what Alpha Male's doing, throwing Holdsworth into the mix, and especially since Ludwig got on board. I mean, it's obviously you've got Faber, who's been a staple atop the 135/145-pound division for a long time. You got Joseph Benavidez, who is right now the number one contender in the flyweight division, and even if he loses to Demetrius Johnson in their forthcoming fight, I don't think that changes. I still think he's the number 2 flyweight in the sport. You've got up-and-coming talent like Holdsworth, like T.J. Dillashaw, the Ultimate Fighter Season 14 runner-up. Guys like Lance Palmer, who fights, I believe, for the RFA. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got guys like him. It's just becoming a really, like you said, Dan, a stacked camp. And right now, if they refine it and add a couple of heavyweights to the mix and, mix up the weight, because they're good in the lower weight classes, they can get some bigger guys in there. To me, you're putting them up against Jackson's as the best camp in MMA, bar none. Right now, you can make a pretty damn compelling argument that they are.
Yeah, I think where they're lacking, though, is they're lacking in the bigs. And when you don't have the 70s and above, you're not going to get that, that same recognition, just because those weight classes obviously carry the more popularity throughout the world, and they get the bigger fights more often than not. So I'm definitely not sitting there saying they're not as quality as some of the other gyms out there, but I think they got to pick up some bigs. Otherwise, they're not going to be ever considered in that same, conversation.
Indeed. And with that being said, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to up the ante, talk a little bit of sports in our next segment. We're going to discuss some Major League Baseball, a big move made by the Tampa Bay Rays this week. Also a big free agent signing. We're going to discuss that, the length of 10-year deals to 31-year-olds. I'm going to give my opinions, and they're not too pleasant in that avenue. We're also going to talk an abundance of college football. First things first, though, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we do come back, more of Pull No Punches featuring Jay Pagliaro and Dan O'Brien. You're tuned in to Pull No Punches Radio, powered by Enlisted 9 Fun Fight Company, and brought to you by the Tan Talk Radio Network.
FSU football is on the Tan Talk Radio Network tonight. Live coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. with an 8 o'clock kickoff time. Don't miss the 12-0 Florida State Seminoles as they take on the Duke Blue Devils live from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. with an 8 o'clock kickoff time. Don't miss it right here on Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network, AM 1350 and AM 1400.
Last time on Don from Largo, Governor Charlie Crist.
Do you have any opinion on that nuclear cost recovery law and what we might?
I think it's ridiculous. I don't understand, how you make ratepayers, consumers, pay for something that's not happening. They're not even going to build the plant, and yet we're being, required to pay for it. It's wrong. It defies logic, and it shouldn't be the way it is.
The way it is, Don from Largo, Wednesday afternoon, 2 to 3 on Tan Talk. Call the show now, toll-free, 1-866-826-1340. That's 1-866-826-1340 or 727-441-3000. That's 727-441-3000.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I lost track of time and every bullet's a flying. Look around, I see my brothers and sisters are dying. My soul tells me to continue to fight. So I push because my brother has just paid with.
Welcome back to Pull No Punches Radio here on the Tan Talk Radio Network. Pull No Punches Radio powered by the Enlisted Nine Fight Company. Be sure to check them out. www.enlisted9.com. Also check us out on Facebook at Enlisted Nine Fight Company or on Twitter at Enlisted9. You can also check me out, Jay Pagliaro, just as it sounds, Pagliaro on Facebook, or Pagliaro, that's Pagliar and the number O on Twitter. Hit us up, all your greatest and latest conversations, news, and discussions about sports, MMA, and much, much more. It's basically what we got there is it's abbreviated. We're an abbreviated version of what we talk about on Facebook, but on a much larger level. So be sure to check us out. Now, this week I want to talk a little bit, or this segment I want to talk a little bit about some stuff that's happened in the sports world, Dan, because it has been just it's a big weekend ahead with college football. Obviously, Florida State Duke playing later on for the ACC championship game, a game you can hear right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network, 1350 and 1400. Coverage starts at 7:30, kickoff at 8 p.m. We got the Big Ten championship game going on. It looks like it's getting ready to kick off any moment now between Ohio State and Michigan State. Obviously, big BCS ramifications there. The Battle of the Tigers, Missouri and Auburn for the SEC title. Then you've got Oklahoma State. You've got Texas versus Baylor. I mean, there's BCS ramifications galore. The party started last night as a BCS bubble was shattered. Northern Illinois, who was on the cusp of an at-large, they beat Bowling Green. They're in for the second straight year to the BCS. Not happening. And it's best way I can roll out that story as they're beating 41, I believe 41-21. I'm not sure the exact score, but I know they were beaten pretty resoundingly. Story of that NIU season, though, gone in 60 minutes. I mean, they go from possibly a trip to the Fiesta Bowl to play either Oklahoma State, Texas, or Baylor. Now they're probably going to the Little Caesars Bowl. Ouch. But speaking of things that make me say ouch, it's been a busy week, especially in baseball. Starting yesterday, they really hit full circle yesterday. The New York Yankees lose a free agent. When's the last time you can actually say that, Dan? They lose a bidding war on a free agent. They gain one, they lose one. The big loss, though, Robinson Cano signs a 10-year, $240 million contract with the Seattle Mariners. This days after they signed Jacoby Ellsbury, they also rebound by signing Carlos Beltran. I just want to throw this out there, though. I'm not understanding why these teams in Major League Baseball are insistent upon throwing 10-year deals at 30-plus-year-old baseball players. I mean, whether they're insisting on throwing 10 years at a player. I mean, look, if you teams not learn anything from what's happening with the Angels with Albert Pujols or what's happened with the Yankees with A-Rod. I mean, yeah, there's a possibility. And Cano, you look at his numbers, they're good. They're very good. But he's 31. The probability of him continuing at this level of play, even 3 years from now, is highly suspect. 10 years from now, he's going to be 41 years old and likely a shell of the player he once was. I mean, again, I use Albert Pujols as an example, man. Albert Pujols was widely regarded not just as the best player on the free agent market that year, but the best player in all of baseball. His numbers were far superior to Robinson Cano's. He had just led his team to a World Series. Okay, the Yankees didn't even make the playoffs this year. Pujols, the patriarch behind the Cardinals' World Series win in 2011, and he gets a 10-year deal. 2 years into it, the Angels are kicking themselves for making it because he slipped, and he's not going to get better. There's no upside with him. To me, if you're handing out a 10-year contract, what's that, bud? Oh, let's get him on. But 10-year, we're 10-year deal. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if you're going to throw a 10-year contract out there, Dan, throw it out there to a Mike Trout. Throw it out there to a Giancarlo Stanton. Do what the Rays have done. Give long-term contracts to Evan Longoria. I get that. Guys that are under 25, 26, 27, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense to make a 10-year offer to a 31-year-old, 32-year-old guy because there's just way too much risk at the end, especially at the end of the contract when they're 36 on, and you're paying $22, $23, $24 million for a guy to hit 250 and 10 home runs. What are your thoughts real quick before we go to Mr. Butler, who's waiting for us on the line?
I just think it's atrocious myself. I think the money that Major League Baseball is throwing out there, first of all, you look at their seats. I don't know where they're making that money back at it. There's no way they make it back in seat sales. There's no way they're going to make it back as far as getting to a championship that fast, in my opinion. And they're absolutely not going to make it out in, I guess, jersey sales or whatever. Doesn't make sense to me. It's so out of control right now how some sports are paying this kind of money, and it just blows my mind because what we're doing, in my personal opinion, and I've been around sports for a long time, as you know, Jay, it's just not good for the fans because the fans are ultimately the ones that are going to pay for this.
Agreed. And, at the end of the day, you got a big contract, and it's going to – what people don't understand, and there's a lot of people who go with this it's just keeping up with the Joneses mentality, okay? Well, look what the Yankees are doing, therefore we have to do this. Look at what the Red Sox are spending. It's nonsense. It's garbage like that cripples organizations long term because to me, in football, in baseball, in all sports, minus maybe the NBA where you can get away with spending the big money and win. In football and baseball and hockey, development is everything. Look at what the Patriots spent. The Rays. There's a reason the Rays have won 90-plus games, for each of the last 5-6 years, and they don't spend anything. They spend nothing. So, it's just, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's take this call, and then we'll get back on this because we don't want to keep these guys on hold too long. But at the same time, I totally agree with you. Let's go ahead and take this call.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take the call. We got Dan waiting for us on the line in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Dan, what's going on, man?
Not much. How you doing, Jay?
Good, buddy. Good. Hey, thanks for calling into the program. So, what do you think? I know you're a big Yankee fan here. Okay, I know you're a Yankee guy. You got to be jumping for joy over there.
You're all there. Phillies.
Oh, you're a Phillies fan. Whoops, bad. My bad. Yeah, that's a big difference. So, what do you think, though? What do you think of this Cano deal? I mean, am I crazy for saying that giving a 10-year deal to a 31-year-old is ludicrous? It's nuts.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I saw Amaro pretty much did the same thing Seattle did. Well, he didn't, sign too many older guys to huge contracts, but he traded all our young guys for guys like Holiday, so we have no future. He tried to win now. And what Seattle is doing right now is they're desperate because they're not selling tickets. You know what I mean? They're not pulling in funds. So they made a desperation move and try to get the big name, throw all the money at them. And it might help them out for a couple of years, but like you said, in the long run, it's going to cripple them.
I agree. And, I don't think they're done. I mean, that's the sad reality is I don't think they're done yet. Already rumors, and being this is a Tampa Bay show that'll hit home, already there's rumors making rounds that they're going to throw a big-time offer at Tampa for, at the Rays for David Price, which makes a little bit more sense. And from the Rays' perspective, I know they're not going to be happy with the idea of this, but, I mean, when you hear the names that are being dropped as possible trade targets that are possibly coming here, you're looking at Nick Franklin. You're looking at Kyle Seager, who hit 22 homers last year and had a .338 on base. Dustin Ackley, Taijuan Walker. I mean, listen, you don't give up that much assets, in my opinion, for a guy who's going to be a free agent in 2 years. And as well as I do, Price is going to be commanding $25-26 million a season. It's the reason Tampa's looking to move him now. So, I mean, I don't think they're done yet, and I just think this win-now mentality – I could point to so many examples. The Yankees. I mean, who spent more than the Yankees, Dan, over the last 10 years? Could you name a team in baseball that's even come close?
Red Sox for a couple of years were right up, and actually the Phillies for a couple of years were like number 3 in spending. But yeah, the Yankees they need to fix that the luxury tax or that cap. Where you get taxed. You spend over a certain amount, they need to fix that because it's a joke to the Yankees. Because they're like, oh, we have to pay a little bit extra to sign half of the All-Stars? Okay.
Yeah, to sign half the All-Stars, and they have exactly one World Series in 10 years to show for it. I mean, that's, that doesn't, that's not successful to me. When you consider the amount of money they've spent, anything short of 9 out of 10 World Series is a disaster. They've won one. The Marlins have won as many World Series in the last decade as the Yankees have.
Yeah. Ask a lot of Yankees fans if they think that huge contract for A-Rod was worth it.
Ask them now. Yeah. I mean, how many of them think it's worth it now? Dan O'Brien, you don't think that? I mean, Dan, what do you think of this conversation? What do you think? You think that these teams? What do you think of the salary cap? I mean, you think there needs to be something put on there? Or what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely, I do. I think what happens. I think Dan up there in Pennsylvania. I mean, he hits it right on the head out in Seattle. Let's go there first. But I think there's pressure across the sports world out there. You got their Seahawks are doing very well, and they want their other teams to do well, so they're willing to throw that kind of money because they think that they build a sports city and they're going to draw those fans off of one stadium to another. But I tell you now, it doesn't work that way. And then you start talking about Boston. They spent a lot of money. The Phillies spent a lot of money. But the thing about New York, you got to understand that is baseball. As many people that don't want to agree with it, I mean, they're going to fill their seats there. So New York has the ability to spend money, and as long as they're somewhat competitive, they're still filling seats. I mean, they're sold out forever. But when you look at Seattle, and not such a great baseball city, I mean, I don't get me wrong, they've had some great runs over the years. I just don't think they have the throughput of the fans to carry that kind of contract.
I agree, and I mean, but I want to counterbalance what you said there about New York being baseball. Listen, St. Louis, okay, St. Louis could win 30 games in a season, and Busch would be sold out. Yet this is a franchise over the last 2 years, okay, that let arguably at the time the greatest player in baseball walk away. Then they let a 17, 18-game winner in Kyle Loesch walk. They just let Carlos Beltran walk. I mean, there's a way to do it. You can what gets people to the stands? Winning games. That's the ultimate amendment. You win games. It doesn't matter if you're winning, selling, it doesn't matter if you've got 5 players that make $200 million on your payroll or you've got none. You win games, people are generally going to come, and I'm going to tread on dangerous ground here because there are certain examples that I'll say that don't, but it might get us thrown off the air because one of them's local. But anyway, moving on to some college football. Dan, you follow college football quite a bit. What do you think of the poll question? We got 3 teams right now in the running for the national title. You got The Ohio State University, you got Florida State, you got potentially the SEC winner. Run into a rut last week. What do you think? If assuming OSU win today, assuming Florida State win today, who gets the 2 national title spots?
I personally think, based off the I'm sorry, we're talking to Dan of Pennsylvania. We'll let you answer first, buddy. Sorry about that.
Yeah, PA Dan. Sorry about that, Dan.
Oh, it's all right. Let's see. If Ohio State wins, and the SEC title game is actually the big one for me, because Ohio State, it's anymore with the Big Ten teams and BCS games. They haven't been doing too well, but they got Urban Meyer now at Ohio State, so he's used to coaching up against SEC guys. For me, it'd be a tough call. It's hard to, even though the SEC is by far the strongest conference in college football, 2 undefeated teams, this is why they need the playoffs, because the one-loss SEC team, and then you have 2 undefeated teams from the ACC and Big Ten if they win out. I'd probably actually like to see Ohio State versus Auburn if they win. Florida State's good, but the ACC is a little weak this year, so I think they might be a bad showing for them in the championship.
Watch Duke win and throw everything in a round goal. Watch Duke or Michigan State winning. Here's everybody's worst nightmare. And Mr. O'Brien, I'll kick it over to you in a minute. Everybody's nightmare is going to happen for those that hate on the SEC. Watch this happen. Ohio State gets bounced by Michigan State. Okay, Florida State stumbled against Duke. And we get Alabama Auburn for the national title game. Anybody that's not a fan of the SEC, they'll implode. They'll implode.
Yeah, let's think about all this for a minute. I mean, let's put this all in perspective. Okay, this has happened in the past. Where undefeated teams have been snubbed, but you start looking at the big picture. Okay, Ohio State, you have to put them in the conversation, not based off of just this season. I mean, we're talking 24-0 over their last 2 or 3 years, whatever it is. I guess it's their 2 years they haven't lost. My problem with Ohio State personally is they need to quit paying the bills for other schools and taking those 4 first easy, preseason games, so to speak. And then when they get to the Big Ten, they play Northwestern and have a hard time with Northwestern. They have a terrible time up in Ann Arbor with Michigan, and now going into Michigan State. So I can't tell you that Ohio State has really played great enough football, where Florida State, on the other hand, they have handled their opposition very well. So I think they both play very, very easy plush conferences right now, even though the Big Ten puts a remarkable amount of personnel into the pros. But a lot of that is offensive and defensive linemen, as we all know. So, my personal opinion on it is the SEC is probably the strongest conference in football, but very close second is the Pac-12 based off of rankings in the national, top 25. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think we see Auburn, Alabama. I just don't think that happens. I don't think the stars are going to align. But I think Duke gives Florida State a little bit of work today. I don't think they get past them. I think Michigan State takes Ohio State all the way to the end, just like Michigan did. So it's going to be tough, but I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be a great weekend of football regardless.
Here's my opinion. And to me, we're talking two unbeaten teams and what's defined as power conference. This isn't Boise State. This isn't Boise State who's rolling Idaho, Colorado College of the Mines, and the other patsy schools that are in the WAC and the Mountain West Conference. Okay, this is the Big Ten by and large, and the Big Ten's down. The Big Ten is absolutely down. Yet they're still going to send 6 teams to bowls. Okay, Minnesota's had a good year this year. Michigan State's a top 10 team. Is it on par with the SEC? No, it's not even on par with the Pac-10. My opinion, though. You've got two unbeaten teams in power conferences. They have to play each other in the national title game. With due apologies to Auburn, with due apologies to Missouri. I could sit there, they're non-conference schedule patchy, but Alabama plays Chattanooga, okay? Florida State plays Savannah State. They've all got patsies on their schedule. Every school does. They all schedule that one team that it's like, why? What's the purpose of this other than get a gimme win? You know what I mean? So it's debatable. To me, I'm not going to lie to you. I want to see Ohio State, Florida State. I want to see a fresh matchup in the national title game. I want to see the angle of Urban Meyer coaching against FSU again because, we saw how many battles the Gators and Seminoles had and the stranglehold he had over the state of Florida when he was coaching at Gainesville. And, I want to see the two unbeaten teams play it out. Thankfully, this year's the end of the BCS, and we're going to get a title playoff format next year. I don't think we're going to be done having debates, though. It's 4 teams. 4 teams. Next year at this program, on this show right here, we're going to be having the same argument about what team's about to get squeezed out of that title picture. So, but fortunately, this computer system crap is going out the window, and we won't be having this discussion anymore next year. But
is Dan still with us from Pennsylvania?
Yep, I am.
What do you think about what I said, buddy? This is the other Dan.
I think you pretty much, slight difference of opinion, but that's the one thing that's killing me this year, though, is that the playoffs, you have to wait a year. They should have got it done and finished and set it in. You know what I mean? Like they say, we'll wait 2 years to do it. The NCAA is just trying to skim more money off the student athletes, if you can call them that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the big issue is, again, like Jay said, we have to honor the undefeated seasons. That's what this is all based upon. But over the years, we haven't done that so well. But I understand because those were weaker conferences or what have you. So I have a big issue, though, with Ohio State. I think definitely they should play in the national championship. I just think that they need to do a better job of their schedule in the beginning because hitting, Ohio and then hitting, Akron and then going ahead and hitting Bowling Green. I understand they're helping those other programs and trying to help their student bodies as well. But I think what it does is it gives the SEC at the end of the season the opportunity, and they have a lot of voters in there, to, put, bad marks on them against their strength of schedule, as well as the ACC. So I think we got Florida State. I think we got Ohio State this year. But is everybody really going to agree with that based off of strength of schedule? Because, let's be honest, it's brought up every year.
Yeah, because one loss – oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
A one-loss SEC team is really hard to vote, to try to turn away because the bottom half of the ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12 is nothing compared to the bottom half of the SEC.
No, absolutely. Look, Vanderbilt, who's been a walking punchline for the last 20 years in college football, right now one could argue they'd be the number 2 or 3 team in the ACC. I mean, I don't think that's an unfair disagreement. I don't think that's an unfair argument. My principle, though, is, again, it's just a matter of, and when we talk about the strength of schedule, you're both spot on, but here's why these teams love these softball schedules, why they put the Savannah States in there, the Akrons, and I can't even say Bowling Green because Bowling Green won 11 games this year, but I digress. They put teams like that in the schedule because you guys know as well as I do, a one loss in college football in this current format, it cripples you. Look at Alabama. They lost in the most, ridiculous manner known to humankind last week. They lost by a field goal that was blocked and got returned for a touchdown. Chances of that happening twice are 1 in 50 million.
Yeah,
they're going to need a miracle to get back to the national title game. They're going to need nothing short of hell freezing over to get back. That's why these teams play these softball schedules, because one loss, it damages them. It puts a real dent into them getting somewhere. It's not like college basketball. You can lose 6-7 games and you're in good shape, and in some cases you're probably going to get a number one seed. College football, you lose one game, you're talking a difference between playing in the Orange Bowl, playing in the Fiesta Bowl, or playing in the Insight.com Bowl or the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. I mean, that's really what the big problem is here.
Well, I think too that fortunately this show's in Florida, so I mean we got a lot of people there that are going to support Florida State Seminoles, and likely that's pretty much where everybody's going with it. Even the Gator fans, or the Bulls fans, or even the Knight fans, they're all going to obviously pull for their Florida team, and I think they've done enough. I don't know how good this Duke football team is. Let's talk about them for a minute. Who would have ever thought Duke would have come on the national scene this fast, and is Duke here for real now? I mean, look at the way their student body gets behind basketball. Is this something we're going to see in the future? Is this going to make the ACC a little bit stronger? I don't know. But I think right now we're going to see Ohio State, if they get through a very tough Michigan State team today, and we're going to see them play Florida State. We're going to see what both teams are all about, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think if you look at offensively, Florida State and Ohio State, they have very similar offenses, and a lot of same kind of character players. So I think it's a great championship game, and we might all be, very pleasantly surprised when we see it all go down. We might be happy with it, and there won't be an SEC team for the first time in forever. So that, hopefully maybe that does, that is what goes down.
Absolutely. And, as for your question about Duke, here's why Duke 101 is successful. They've got a good coach. David Cutcliffe he was good in the SEC. Okay, he was a good, did good things at Ole Miss. Why they fired him, I don't know. They haven't been the same since, in my opinion. I mean, he's a good coach, and look, you could get Duke to win 10 games. They've never won 10 games, even when they were going to the Rose Bowl traditionally back in the 40s under Wallace Wade. This is a team that did not go to, they win 10 games. Duke, when you talk Duke, you talk basketball first, second, third, and fifth. Football's an afterthought. Now, you're looking at a 10-win team that, dare I say, is 60 minutes away from going to the BCS. That's good coaching. That's great coaching. And that's one of the more underrated coaches in college football that doesn't get nearly the credit. So that's what that's about. Speaking of UCF, and I want to shift real quick onto this, Darryl went away. I know they're talking about BCS. They're realistically at a stone's throw away from getting a BCS bid themselves. So good times for Florida. One team, though, things not going so well for the Florida Gators. We've only got literally a handful of seconds left, but what do you think? But I know I want to talk a little bit more about this next week. Maybe we'll get a guest on to come on with us and discuss, the state of Florida football. Will Muschamp, first sub-500 season in I can't remember how long, and you can excuse some of the losses they've had in the SEC, gentlemen. How do you lose to Georgia Southern? I mean, how can you explain losing to Georgia Southern? That's I think, I know Muschamp got a vote of approval by, that Jeremy Foley said he's definitely coming back next year, and they've made some moves on the coaching staff. Brent Pease sent man overboard, but I can't see him being safe. I mean, Ron Zook got fired after going 8-4.
All right, we're going to let Dan go ahead and up in Pennsylvania. You got first dibs. Let's go.
Yeah, first. Okay. Well, he's been coached there for what now? A year or two? He hasn't been there very long. 2 years. Yeah. Maybe they're just trying to see if he could pull it together, and they don't want to give him the boot so quick, because you don't want to be like the Raiders of college football where you have a different coach every year, because the system's just, You know what I mean? Kids have to learn a new system every year, and that just causes progression and more chaos.
That makes sense. Dan O'Brien, real quick, what are your thoughts?
Okay, well, I'm going to give you my 2 cents for growing up in this area, since I am a Tampa, Floridian, actually a studying high school Clearwater guy. So this is what I think went down. I think during that time when Urban Meyer was here, he had a great recruiting class. I think Florida went ahead and they were able to play the last couple of years with those recruits. I think Florida recruiting has gone down, but I'll give you the reason why. I think FSU reemergence, I think that has hurt Florida. I also think that USF a couple of years ago had a really competitive football team, so a lot of the guys here from the Bay Area wanted to probably stay home or maybe didn't get full ride opportunities, so they took a lesser school. And then I think UCF coming along with the Knights, I think all that has played a big role in the recruiting, and I think Florida has missed it over the last maybe year or two, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the effects of good football being played throughout the state of Florida. And to recruit these kids, you're going to have to do a much better job. And not to mention, Miami is back on track, so they're picking up a lot of the recruits again, too. So those 3 powerhouses are now being interfered with 3 other schools in the state of Florida. So you're not going to get the powerhouse recruiting that you used to get 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. And when you don't win, like you said, Jay, then next thing you know, your recruits seem to be going somewhere else.
Absolutely. That's a good way to segue out of this conversation and end this show. It's been a great show here on Full No Punches Radio, powered by the Enlisted 9 Fight Company. Quick reminder, 7:30 kickoff tonight, right here on 1350 and 1400 at Tan Talk Radio Network. Florida State Duke, the ACC title game. Coverage starts at 7:30. Kickoff at 8 p.m. Dan Butler, winner of the Matt Hamill autograph picture. Please send me your address on Facebook. I'll get that out to you right away. For Dan O'Brien, for Mr. Bill, driving the Full No Punches bus, I am Jay Pagliaro. We will see you next Saturday morning right here on Full No Punches Radio, powered by the Enlisted 9 Fight Company. Have a good day, everybody.
I wish I knew then what I know right now. When my parents split, that's when it shook my ground. No source of strength now, my life wasn't clear. Cracks in the foundation, I was living in fear. Paycheck to paycheck, 3 jobs at a time. Mom tried, I watched her crying, never receiving a dime. My father was gone, he was doing his thing. As the years went by, my phone would ring. Played outside every day as long as I could.
WTAN, Clearwater, Tampa Bay. WDCF, Dade City, Tampa Bay. WZHR, Zephyr Hills, Tampa Bay. Listen.
It's time for the Saturday edition of Canada Calling, the news from home for vacationing Canadians throughout Florida. This is Prior Smith speaking from Toronto. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk about contrasting weather conditions. Thursday afternoon here in southern Ontario, the midday